was prepared to talk about a whole host of issues. We had a lot of things happen with the Kim Kardashian, Ayesha Curry controversy. A really great series, Underground, came out. That's it's definitely, I think, worth having a whole video dedicated to it. I think a very powerful story on network television on WGN about slavery. But something happened on Friday in Chicago that is very much so worth discussing. It's just very important. If you didn't know, I'm very highly into politics. I'm an activist myself. And, I just being someone who is an activist and very passionate about my views, it is a very important part of my life, not only to have people around me that challenge my thinking, who agree with me, but also who challenge my thinking, who may not have the same philosophical view as me or viewpoint. But the important thing is that even if we agree or disagree, that it is discussed in a way that is productive and also nonviolent. And what we've seen in this presidential election is a GOP frontrunner who, from day one, was running on a very hateful, racist, and xenophobic platform, and played to a lot of people's racist sentiments to garner support. Here we are at the tipping point, and you know what? I think this is maybe even just the beginning of that boiling over point for a lot of people. And I think there's a lot of people acting surprised, but we really shouldn't be. So let's discuss what happened. And something I want to talk about is, yes, I am very passionate about this subject matter, but something I need you to also know is that as interested as I am in criticizing things that I don't agree with or developing my views, challenging my own views, I'm just as invested in trying to find solutions. So I do feel very strongly about this subject, but at the end of this video, I hope to discuss solutions so that we can know where to go from here. These are my suggestions on where to go from here, and where I'm definitely going to apply myself to making things right in this presidential election. Because right now we've gotten far away from the ideals of that I think America was built on. Well, not even built on, because we were built on the ideals of equality, but it took several hundred years for us to have laws in place that actually included everyone. But we're actually taking steps backwards from that. And into a place that I think is really nasty and really scary. So what happened in Chicago is, in a week where the GOP frontrunner has had scandal after scandal, in North Carolina this week, a man was sucker punched in the face by a 78-year-old Trump supporter. The campaign manager of the GOP frontrunner's campaign has also been engulfed in a very serious situation. And let's also talk about the fact that for months, this presidential candidate has also said things to the effect of, and you can quote it, you can see it on video, "I want to punch that guy in the face," when regarding a protester at one of his rallies. We've seen him say, let's take this guy out on a stretcher. He also said, "I will pay the legal bills of whoever gets that protester." So we have that type of rhetoric in this campaign. So we cannot be surprised that we're at this point. We can't be surprised that we're at this point. But now that we are, let's discuss it. So what happened in Chicago? Minorities who are Muslim, Black, Latino, and white, you saw people coming together and essentially presented this frontrunner the opportunity to say all of those nasty things to their faces. The person who from day one started his platform saying that Mexicans are rapists and criminals and a few are good people, basically presenting him with the opportunity to say that to their faces. And they showed up in a very large number. There were protesters inside and outside of the event, and the person decided to cancel the event as a result of that turnout. So that's what happened, And after that decision was made, it was communicated by a member of his campaign, all hell broke loose. So what these protesters did was where politicians and members of the media could not speak strongly against Donald Trump, they did, and they shut it down. You have someone who wants to deport Latinos who are part of this country, who are working here indiscriminately. You have somebody who wants to ban Muslims from coming into the country, Muslim Americans, solely based on their religion, and who will triple down on those statements. And you have people who are largely kind of saying, oh, that's kind of wrong, giving a little slap on the wrist, and leaving it at that. And you also have the media as well, which I will discuss in a, we need to discuss the media's position in this, because where they would like to see, I'm sure, like to kind of wash their hands of this, they are very much so a part of where we are at this point, providing wall-to-wall coverage, almost nearly 24/7, of this, some of the most vile speech I've ever heard, spoken by a presidential candidate. So let's talk about freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is a two-way street, okay? You have the right to wear a white hood, and you have a right, and occupy a public space, and wear whatever Klan gear you want, wear a Confederate flag if you want. You have the right to call me the N-word. That actually is freedom of speech. But if you call me the N-word in your Klan gear, I also, in a public space, I also have the right to yell back at you, tell you that I'm not that. So that's how freedom of speech works. It doesn't work where you get to say whatever you want and nobody else gets to say what they want back. So if you're occupying a public space, you have the right, if you're in the Klan, to have a meeting on private property. But if you have a rally on public property, then guess what? H&R Block, I pay my taxes too. I have a right to occupy that space as well and say whatever and voice my concerns. And something that I've dealt with as an activist and for a long time is this argument I have with standing up for myself and also blocking people out who don't agree with me. So what some people are saying is that they infringed upon his free speech. This individual proceeded to call into the call-in candidate, as I like to call him. I don't like to say his name too much because, like Voldemort, I feel that he appears whenever his name is mentioned. But even on a YouTube channel of 14 subscribers. But yeah, so he was able to he was the only person who was supposed to speak at his rally. But after the cancellation of the rally, he was able to phone into so many shows and say his opinion. So his freedom of speech remains intact. And where I don't like to block out other people's ability to express their views, even if we don't agree, there's a strong line to be drawn when people are saying, they're using free speech to say, I don't like Black Lives Matter, and then there's attacking Black Lives Matter protesters who are just there. There's indiscriminately kicking out Black people at Valdosta State for just being in a Trump rally and being Black. Not all of them were protesters. Some of them were there to observe the rally, and they were just thrown out onto the street from a Trump rally. So there's freedom of speech, but you most certainly don't have the freedom to punch anybody in the face. People are more mad at the protesters who had the courage to stand up to not just hateful speech, but very hateful actions, punching a person in the face in North Carolina, and the person who punched the individual saying, oh, next time I'll have to kill him. That is crossing a line. You have to shut that stuff down. When it gets to a point where free speech turns into hateful action, you have to draw the line. And what I think the protesters in Chicago did was draw a very strong line where media couldn't, where other politicians couldn't. There was more harsh language with the people who shut down the protests than there were for the people who were punching individuals in the face for observing their free